Robert, James. Hey, congratulations on your new film, The Featherweight.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Gig. Appreciate that.
No, appreciate both of you speaking to us. This is such a good dramatic movie, and we all love boxing itself. But Robert, let me throw the first question out to you: is where the original story came from? Because I almost felt like this was real.
Yeah, Willie Pep is an amazing, iconic fighter. When I first heard about him, I was working on a boxing documentary in Bulgaria. But I think the project actually first began with James. And maybe you should tell that story, Jimmy.
Well, my father said, look up the great featherweight Willie Pep, and I did. And he looked like me and seemed like we came from very similar backgrounds, Italian-American, East Coast. He was a fighter. I liked to fight, or maybe I wish I was a fighter, but I, became an actor. But I saw a lot of similarities in the sense of who we were, and Willie's story in general, his accolades and his ups and downs. I really gravitated to his story, and I think any actor is looking for something to chew on, to really transform into and show the world what they can do, as well as tell a great story. And Willie's story was a great story. So that's sort of how it started. And then we got in touch with the great documentary filmmaker, Steve James, who put us in touch with Mr. Robert Greene via Robert Kolodny. And then that's where Bennett Elliott, and that's where the dream team came about.
So James, you mentioned your transformation. Tell us about your transformation from actor to boxer on this project then.
Well, I think the first thing that people think of when you're playing a boxer, obviously, is, let's get in shape, let's get shredded, let's get ripped, let's kind of, let's be that person. But in hindsight, that's really not was my objective. My objective was to obviously understand Willie internally and who he was and his faults and his triumphs. I say it all the time. He was a winner inside the ring, a complete failure, not complete, but, at times a failure outside the ring. So my main mission was to hone on his interiors. The exteriors, as far as his fighting and how he looked, where he's from, his accent, his friends, what he liked to eat, all of that stuff, that was going to come naturally, working together with different key departments. When you put on the outfit, when you're in Willie's house, when you're eating the spaghetti and meatballs, when you're acting with other great actors, when you have wonderful, beautiful, talented key departments that make it easier. So, it was a juggle with the interior and exteriors, but, I was ready for that challenge.
Robert, tell us about the approach of making this in a quasi docu-style type of storytelling mode.
Yeah, I'm just obsessed with the direct cinema movement in the 1960s in America. Filmmakers like D.A. Pennebaker, the Maysles brothers, Frederick Wiseman. And, our film takes place in 1964. Part of the conceit of it is that there's a documentary crew filming Willie's life and his family. And so the idea of making it feel like a totally authentic nonfiction film, indicative of all of the period styles, became more and more important as we went on, because it allowed us to utilize a form of storytelling that I think really heightened the narrative. The idea of the camera crew being able to talk to Willie, and for Willie to be able to break the fourth wall and talk to the camera crew, and the reality of a subject of a film being able to be performatively perceived as how they want to come off on camera, versus when the camera finds them, they're unaware that they're being filmed and their true self coming out. And so our entire crew put a lot of work into making things feel as organic as possible. Our costume designer, our production designer, our director of photography, a lot of nuance and craft went into making everything feel totally organic, not a facsimile of something, but a genuine article.
So true, so true. James, as an actor, they always teach you not to look directly into the camera. And in this case, you have to break that fourth wall and look directly into the camera. And sometimes you don't even have to look into the camera, and you have to switch that on and off. How challenging was that to do all of that, going by the rules and breaking the rules at the same time for a film like this?
That is a great question. It's a loaded question for sure. I had many conversations with Robert of how are we going to do this? I'm doing this 30 years. I've never spiked a lens. I've never been able to talk to the director. I am comfortable right now, or I'm not comfortable right now. The camera crew shouldn't be here. Why are you here? Wouldn't I have thrown you out? What's my objective in this scene? How am I acting to you? So yeah, it was very, very confusing for me at times, but I'll tell you, Robert was always ready and willing to walk me off that sort of bridge and break that sort of, world that I've lived in for 30 something years as acting. At the same time, it came with an incredible amount of freedom to do so. I could walk around the room. I could do whatever I want. I could bump into the camera instead of avoiding it. I could spike it. I don't have to hit my marks. I could play. So there was a freedom to that. And as an actor, that's kind of what you want. You want to be able to just explore. So there's a lot more exploration than typically you would have. But I embraced it, man. I'll tell you, I enjoyed it. Now I got to go back to regular act and hit my mark and find my light and stay away from the cameras. So, but it was great. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Most excellent.
It's a unique thing to have the camera as a scene partner, right? It's not just a third party observational thing. It's something physical that you're aware of in the space and can interact with.
Well, when we first sort of came up with this sort of what we're going to do and how we're going to shoot this, there was this, what if in 1965, somebody, ESPN potentially, knocked on Willie Pep's door in sort of a where is he now type documentary or ESPN piece on him. And, you find Willie where he's down and out. His father's sick. His son is sick. He's on his fourth marriage. He's back home living with his mother and doesn't have a job. And he wants to make a comeback. So it was like that we came upon that juicy moment. And correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, in 1965, New York Times put out a top 10 human interest story. And Willie Pep was in that top 10 human interest story in 1965. His comeback was of interest. So it was a big thing.
So true, so true. Robert, James, thank you very much for carrying this conversation with us about the Featherweight. It is such a captivating drama. I learned a lot about William Pep, even though this is technically not a documentary. And James, awesome performance. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Big. Appreciate that. Great having you.